Hello, my name is Jennifer, and welcome to my new YouTube channel, Quilting, Stitching, and Kitties. This is my first time, my first video, but I am very much looking forward to going on a journey with you. I do all sorts of quilting. I do hand quilting, machine quilting, quilt as you go method. I also have a small long arm, and I was a professional long armer for 11 years until I was just too tired. It's just exhausting. So I have lots of information. I was a former teacher. I love to teach and help people. It's one of the things I do. Stitching, I hand stitch, machine stitch. I do some cantha stitching. I do some English paper piecing. A little crochet thrown in now and then, but I'm not a very good crocheter. Okay, but not great. So what are some of the things that I'm going to be talking about? All of those and kitties. I love cats. I've had cats pretty much my whole life. I really like dogs too, but I love cats, and they are a little bit easier to take care of than a dog. I figured out that I currently have my 8th cat. Her name is Sherlock. She is 15 and a half years old, so she's a very old lady, but she's eating well and drinking well and just has a touch of arthritis, so she's doing okay, and she is one of my greatest pleasures and greatest joys, besides quilting. So what am I working on right now? Well, I've got several quilts and many that I won't even talk about, but the first one I'm working on is the one that's right here that I'm going to be showing you today. And it is a checkerboard quilt, and it is made of Liberty of London Tana Lawn cotton. It is a very, very fine cotton, kind of thin, heaven to hand stitch through. Very expensive, $40 a meter, which is just, a little bit longer than a yard. But if you don't make gigantic quilts, it's not too bad. I'm also working on a bucket list project that is also made of the Tana Lawn fabric, and it is all hand pieced and hand sewn, and it is English paper piecing. And I just started it this year. I figure 6 months to a year before I get it all sewed together, and then of course I'd have to quilt it. I'm also working on a temperature quilt, which I was introduced to by Stitch with Rachel, another YouTuber, and she lives in Great Britain, and she decided to form a Facebook group that we could join if we were doing this temperature quilt. So a temperature quilt is for a year. It can either be a past year or it can be a current year. I'm doing the current year, and you make a block each day or something. It doesn't have to necessarily be a block. It may be a hexagon, could be anything. And you usually represent the high and low temperature by color. So the colors change dramatically throughout the year, which makes it very interesting. I decided to do a hand applique hexagon on a 2.5-inch square, and then I'm doing a quilt as you go by hand around it and stitching those pieces together. So the good news, at the end of the year, the quilt will be all done and won't need to be quilted. But you have to keep up or you get really behind really fast. I got so excited about doing that I decided to do another temperature quilt for the year, and that one is machine pieced. And it has 2 little blocks sewed together that represent the high and the low, and then sashing in between. And I will be showing you those in a future video. So what else am I working on? I'm also working on a log cabin block of the month, also made from my newly discovered wonderful fabric, Tana Lawn. And it's from my favorite provider of that fabric that's called Duckadilly. And it's an online company. And every month they send enough fabric to make so many blocks. So that's going to take me at least a year. And that one I'll probably have to have machine quilted by another long armer, because my long arm is not long enough to handle that this time. Excuse me for looking at my notes, but this is my very first video, so I'm trying really hard. What do I use quilts for? I use them for beds. I use them for laps. I use them for protecting my lap when my cat is on it. I use them for wall hangings and table toppers and placemats and cushioning the back of chairs. And I'll show you that one when I get up. And also just a decorative throw. I'm sure there's other uses I haven't thought of, but that's what I do right now. So what am I going to show you today? I'm going to show you this hand quilted, it was machine pieced, checkerboard, and I am doing the quilting on a table, and I was introduced to this by another YouTuber, Kate at the Last Homely House, a quilter and stitcher that lives in North England, and I am using cotton candy colored King Tut thread, which is a 40 weight 3-ply. I'm using a John James sharp needle, size 9. I'm using a Hera marker to mark my stitching lines, and I use Thread Magic, which is a, I believe, silicone-based thread conditioner that you use to help stop from knotting. And that's what I'm using on this quilt. I'll always try and be specific. I'm not necessarily saying that these are the best to use, but these are what I am using today, and I have found them to be very successful. So let me show you how to do this on a table. I have underneath a cutting mat, a big size cutting mat, to make sure I don't cut my table, though it really wouldn't matter that much since 3 days after we bought the table, my cat jumped on it and scratched it. But that's life. Okay, so I decided to just make this easy because I'm still learning. I'm not the best hand quilter in the world. I took 6 hand quilting classes, the last one with Joe Cunningham, who is a pretty famous male quilter in the United States. And by the way, I live in northern Arizona in the mountains, about an hour and a half from Flagstaff and 2 hours from Phoenix. So we get snow, we get heat, we get very interesting weather, as well as monsoon during the summer. So we get some horrendous thunderstorms. So what I did is I marked with a ruler using my Hera marker, and I'm just going from corner to corner. And that's it. I'm making it really easy. And I know you're not going to be able to see this really close up, but since it's my first time, I don't know how to edit, but I will learn. And I don't know how to change camera without editing, so I'm just going to show you from here, but I've told you what I'm using. When you use the Thread Magic, or beeswax is fine too, you just grab the thread with your finger and you just slip it through. And what it does is it just puts a really fine coating on. You can't feel it on the quilt. You can hardly even feel it on your fingers, but it helps the thread stop from knotting. So what I do is, because I'm such a one-sided person, I turn the quilt orientation so that I am going from right to left because I'm right-handed and it's the easiest for me. And I'm going straight because that's easier for me. So I'm not going to start a row right now. I'm caught on a safety pin. And make sure that your thread is pulled through enough that you're not going to slide it off the needle. And then all I do is approximate how far down I want my stitch to be. And then I put the needle through at about probably 45-degree angle. And as soon as I hit the mat, then I bring the needle back up. And in this case, I'm getting about not quite 1/4 of an inch for my stitch, which is what I wanted. I didn't want this to be little tiny stitches, one, because it's too hard to do. But when I took that hand quilting class, and Joe told me, he says, just do 1 stitch at a time, because I couldn't get the rocking motion. I decided, you know what? There's nothing wrong with doing that. So it actually goes faster. So I'm coming down at a 45 angle. I'm going approximately the distance I want the stitch to be. Then I'm coming back up and I'm pulling the thread through. And I adjust my stitches for seams. If I need to make it a little smaller, a little bigger. This is hand quilted. You know, it is just for me to enjoy a very nice lightweight quilt. I put a very thin batting in it. It's called Dream Orient by Quilter's Dream. And so it's got a very nice lightweight art gallery fabric on the back. And so it's going to be a super lightweight quilt. How I'm going to keep it away from my cat, I'm not sure. So I find that I can do a length across probably in about 15 or 20 minutes. So yes, it's going to take some time, but it's not a big hurry. And if I feel like it, I can turn on the TV that's in front of me. And when I just get through on my first run of all across the middle of the blocks, then I'll decide, do I want to go across this way too? Do I want to go through the colored blocks? And I'll see. I want it to be quilted enough that it stays together, but I don't want it to be over quilted. So if you can see behind me, one of my quilts up on the wall, it's a Southwestern variety quilt, just a little wall hanging that I move around. Also, I wanted to tell you one more thing before I go today, is that there's a company called So Yeah, Y-E-A-H Quilting. I believe they have a store in Vegas, Las Vegas, and also in Alaska. And they are doing an Alaskan quilt drive. And what they do is once a year they collect quilts. And this year it can be either for children or babies or adults. And then they fly them up to Alaska, and they take them to these little villages for people that don't have access except by boat or by plane. And they help them have the quilts for warmth. So I'm going to be donating 2 of those quilts, getting ready to mail them off. I went ahead and stitched them very well so they could be easily washed. And I washed them because I have a cat, and I wanted to make sure there were no allergens. So that's it for today. Any questions you have or comments, please put them below. I think I know how to do that. And if there's any questions that you have or something that you would like to see, please let me know, and I will be back with more information shortly. And thank you so much for stopping by today, and have a good day. And now I need to find the remote to turn it off. Thank you. Take care.